The Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. The following video is presented by the Center for Educational Media in partnership with Professional Educators of Tennessee's Leader U Conference. For more professional development videos, check out our website at www.mtsu.edu/CEM.
Today we'll be hearing from Angie Markham. The session is called Tech in Nature, Nature in the Classroom. Angie is a graduate of the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga and began her teaching career in 1985 with the Hamilton County Department of Education as a secondary mathematics teacher. She's a veteran of the public school classroom and has taught every mathematics course offered grades 6 through 12 for multiple years. She shifted to school administration in 2010 and shortly thereafter became executive director of one of Hamilton County's 2 charter schools in 2011. During her time at Ivy Academy, the school has undergone unprecedented growth, improvement, and evidence of increased community support with a waiting list for every grade level. Ivy Academy is the first public school in Tennessee to partner with Tennessee State Parks for the high school majors in environmentally related fields. Angie was recognized as Administrator of the Year for East Tennessee by the Tennessee Environmental Education Association in 2015, and Angie works with young adults as a teacher in her church. She and her husband of over 30 years, Bill, reside in Hickson, Tennessee. And I just have to add that I started using this program she's going to talk with you about today, and it has made a huge difference in my classroom. I'm an environmental science teacher, and during the pandemic, this was so useful to me. We do a insect collection, and we weren't able to do it in person, and so they were able to upload to this app she's going to tell you about, and it was phenomenal. So without further ado, Angie.
Okay, thank you, Megan. A little over a week ago, Bethany said Tim Childers can't be here, and I said, oh, Tim always does something on tech. Do you want something on tech? And so we came up with Tech and Nature, a combination. And I want you to go ahead and introduce Ann Lawrence. She's my tag team teacher today. She's going to help with this. And Ann has been a teacher at Ivy Academy Middle and High School for how many years? 5 years now. And next year she is making the shift to elementary. We are launching an elementary school, and she is one of our first grade teachers. We're having kindergarten and first, so we're really excited about that. So, the whole theme of this conference, is embracing the new normal. And as much as I resisted that, because I just wanted to go back to normal. I didn't want a new normal. But the further we get removed from the pandemic, we're actually seeing there is a new normal. And the tools that we're going to give you today can be used if you have your students in front of you, and they can be used very effectively because of some of the things we're experiencing since the pandemic. And then we have to face the possibility there could be another day. I still remember March 13th, 2020. It is engraved in my brain. We just went home and our kids never came back. So not that school year. So we have to face the reality that could happen again. Well, these tools, as Megan said, are very useful even if you don't have your student in the classroom. You can still use them. So it's kind of a overarching, it's a great tool to have, these methods. And not only is it a great tool to have, it's necessary, and we're going to show you that. So this is what we're going to do today. Introductions and set our goals, what we're going to accomplish. Will be about 15 minutes. Then we'll download and practice with an app. And then we're going to do an activity during the practice, come back in, ID, and share. And then at the end, we'll share lesson plan samples. So, y'all didn't know you were going to get to do all that, did you? The beauty of what we're going to do today, centers around creating a unified platform where people, maybe if you're not in the classroom every day as a teacher, you can still interact the same way. And you can help students, and students can help you. So it's not just for educators. And that's one thing also when we look at the big picture of what we need to do since the pandemic, we need to, and I'll repeat this later, we need to create flourishing humans, okay? What we did before the pandemic was not working so awesome anyway, as far as having students contained in a classroom all day and having a set of standards, and you got to learn, we got to, oh, my job's dependent on it, and all. You know, education is beautiful. Education is an art, and it is for everyone. And we can get everyone involved and everyone helping students. So this is a tool to do that, and I think you'll really, everybody will want to take part once you see how it works. So I want to tell you that by the end of the session today, our goals are that you will have a new perspective on what your classroom is, a new tool and method to use in your classroom, and confidence to try a new approach to meet the demands of the post-pandemic teaching challenges. So, ta-da! The world changed. It changed overnight. Now we're faced with these needs regardless of setting. So we have the need of a healthier class style, and class style there means like lifestyle, a healthier class style, more human interaction. So we went through this time period where there was no human interaction. Everybody was isolated. And then more meaningful teacher-student interactions. Those are huge needs that have just surfaced more and more after the pandemic. And when I talk about healthier class style, that is not just for the student. The amount of emotional and mental challenges that I've seen in teachers since the pandemic is real, and it has to be dealt with. And we saw this morning from the keynote speaker how we're just losing. We are losing teachers. So this method that we're going to go through, it creates some happiness, some interaction, just it's not so regimented and pressurizing. It makes you happy, and that's what we need. Teachers need that lift. They need a little bit of a change. They need a little bit of a boost to their day. So today we're going to practice a routine that you can use any day for any subject, weather permitting. You are breaking free. And I went ahead, this is an actual photo of you after the session. I went ahead and got it. You're breaking free of all the traditions and norms that we've been in that no longer work and really weren't that great before. So here's our basic method. Ann, you want to talk about that first one?
I do. Our first basic method is movement with fresh air and sunshine, pleasant change of pace. And we're not talking about recess for middle school and high school and regular recess for our elementary boys and girls. We're talking about the teacher being engaged in nature with their students. So finding a location outdoors at your school, even in an urban area or setting, you can find nature. There are trees planted around, and you can use that one tree to facilitate a nature observation. There's some picture books out there. Well, they're more than picture books. 1 square foot, and it goes through different biomes, and you can observe the same square foot for each season and notice the changes. So this outdoor fresh air, it helps our teachers. It helps to get outdoors. And at first, it might create students who want to be wild and run around, but once they realize the outdoors is still their classroom, you have the same rules that you do in the classroom, in those 4 walls, that you have outside those 4 walls. But yeah, getting outdoors with your students in a learning activity is key.
And just the movement to get there is healthy. You get your blood pumping. It's a little bit changed. Students make relevant observations with tech assistance for interaction and learning. So we all learned through the pandemic. I'm not a fan of a lot of tech, but we all learned through the pandemic that all tech is horrible for kids. Let's say the word together. Horrible for kids. All tech is. But we're in a technological world. They still have to know how to use tech. So using tech while you're still embracing these other positive benefits is a good thing. We just have to know when to use it and how we really should limit it some.
Okay, so number 3, meaningful interactions with peers, citizen scientists, and teachers. One thing that I know a lot of teachers, if they're going to make a new resume, they're going to put somewhere on that resume, I want to create lifelong learners. I think every teacher is a lifelong learner. So when you are outside with the students, you're learning right beside them. You can search your neighborhood, your community, for these citizen scientists that can come out to your school. The birdwatching club would love to join your students in a bird count. We do one at our school, Angie will tell you about in a little bit. But any student, they love to share what they found with their classmates. So they're getting that interaction together, and it's face-to-face, hopefully. But they get to commend each other and being with the teacher too, because the teacher can boost them up by simply saying, "What an awesome photograph. That is great. Let's upload it to this iNaturalist."
Mm-hmm. Megan, would you give your short story about your student?
I guess this was about 3 years ago when I first learned about iNaturalist, and we were going through we had started it. I started using this for students who had a problem with killing insects. And you know, you've always got those kids in your classrooms like, I don't want to kill anything. And so we were doing an insect collection where we collected, and then I gave this as an option for kids that didn't want to touch them or, you know, kill them, that they could do it virtually using iNaturalist. And so we created an entomology project, and they would upload their observations onto that, and then they had to do a report on the insect. And so when the pandemic hit, we were teaching from home, and I had students go out and do their insect collection, ultimately creating a survey of insect activity in our little county there. I told them it had to be in Coffee County. And then these experts come in and verify that they are correct in their identifications, and then those photos go what's called research grade. And so last year, I continued with that format of doing it online, and I had a little girl who took a picture of a goldenrod soldier beetle. And it was an excellent picture. She took it with an iPhone. It was not a professional photo or anything, but about 2 months after she completed that project, she got a notification that some people that were releasing a paper wanted to use her photograph. And so she got published, and they had to give her credit in their paper, and they cited her, and she was just over the moon. She wasn't a particularly good student, but she was a really good photographer. And so that was just, I mean, and she kept doing it. And so many of these kids continue to use that app because I'm friends with them. They're in my project, and I can see when they do identifications. And so they really are becoming lifelong learners. And they now, instead of going, what is that? I don't know, they pull that phone out and use that app, and they're like, oh, I know what that is now. And so I think that's remarkable.
It is. Thank you for sharing that. And the things that I loved about that story was, one of the things was that student, it was such an affirmation to them. And now you see the connections with careers, and that it opens the world to them, like, oh, this is real. I have interacted with real professionals who publish journals or publish photographs. So it's a real world application that they're getting to participate with inside the classroom. And then the last step on here is relevance to understanding the standard at hand. And that's what we're going to practice here in a little bit, because it's not just an activity. It is learning through doing, through application, through hands-on, and it is directly related to your subject matter. And you don't have to teach environmental science. Ann and I are going to go over what you can do in each subject, some examples, and then we're going to work on some possible lessons or samples together. So, just to review, we've got our movement. Since the pandemic, the movement is not just about exercise. When you walk, it can elevate your mood. And for a teacher who's been in the same spot, or even for a student who's been in the same seat, just having that little bit of movement, and it's with purpose, with learning purpose that's connected to your standards, so it's not taking away. I mean, you'll have that little bit of transportation time, but it's adding to your learning instead of taking away. Then we've got our relevant observations. It's about our world we're in. It's about what we're studying, meaningful interactions with, like what we just talked about, real professionals out there in the field, and then relevance to understanding our standard. So here it is. It's the iNaturalist app. How many of you, if you've got it on your phone, do you participate in any of the projects? Anybody? Okay, good deal. And you'll notice Megan mentioned the research grade, and what that means is after you've taken an observation and you've uploaded it, once it is confirmed by 3 others, or you've got 3 confirmations that that's what species it is, then that counts as research grade. So it's a worldwide citizen science project where you have confirmations, and then since it was research grade, when the person who was publishing the article on the goldenrod soldier beetle, they're like, I need a research grade photo, they snagged it. So people worldwide can see what we upload here, and then it becomes a worldwide research project that your students in the classroom are taking part with. So we're going to take a minute and get everybody to get that on your phone. If you don't have it on your phone, just go to your app store and research iNaturalist, but just take a minute and get that on there, and then we're going to actually go on a walk and take an observation.
On your app at the bottom is a picture of a camera. It says observe, and so you click observe, and it asks you, do you want to use your camera, your photo library, or you can record sound. So once you've chosen whether to take the photo and then upload it, or actually take the photo on the app, you do that, and then I say use photo, and then it asks you, what did you see? And you click on that, and it looks up through their database all the different kinds of trees and bark. There's a professional citizen scientist or a professional ag scientist, and I've had them comment, you know, things like, you didn't put a location. If you put a location, we'll be able to tell you exactly what you've observed. So once you do that, you could be getting messages from your fellow iNaturalist users. Okay, go take pictures.
I don't think it'll identify by the different colors. I don't think it'll identify anything different. I think it'll all be a daylily.
That looks the best to me. And we don't know for sure, but see here, it's already put our location, the time, geoprivacy, it's not cultivated. We're gonna let everybody see it. Let's go share. And the beauty of this is, we've guessed best we could, but what will happen is other people will see it and they will either confirm it or suggest another ID. So somebody who has experience at that can correct us if we're wrong or confirm it if we're right. And once it's confirmed 3 times, then it's research grade. So,
That's fascinating.
okay. So you got a little bit of practice with the iNaturalist app. And as the more you use it, the more features that you will discover and the more comfortable you will become with it. I was recently, last week we were on Jekyll Island and I saw some things I did not know, some species I did not know their names. So what I did is I uploaded them as observations and I took my best guess. And I was wrong on several of them. But you know what? The community of citizen scientists, they just give suggestions. And I think that's a great learning tool because we learn how to accept feedback in a non-threatening way, and our students need that. So it's very beneficial from a lot of different angles. Now that we've had that little bit of a walk, can you tell a difference in your mental state or your focus just from that little bit of walk? Teachers need that, students need that. And as long as you're using the time effectively and you've planned out where to go, one of the things we were discussing on the way back was just a cardinal rule when you have besides counting before you go out and come back, if you only have one adult, the adult always brings up the rear and you can always see your students. And the student's responsibility, you have to pre-teach. The student's responsibility is that whoever the line leader is, they know everyone in the line has to stay within eyeshot and earshot of the teacher. And our rule is if they don't do that, like if somebody runs ahead, if you are not within view of the teacher, it counts as a skip and you have to go through the consequences. Now we're not strictly punitive. We do as much restorative as we can, but still you have to keep safety is the number one. Safety is the number one goal. When you have other people's children, safety is the biggest deal that there is. So you got to make sure you know where those kids are at any time. Yes, sir?
So I have a question on that note. So is there a benefit? I noticed that there are several projects that are actually school focused, like their name projects. And then I see, for example, we're in the Upper Cumberland, there's the biodiversity of Tennessee's Cumberland Plateau. So is there a safety concern? Obviously, we're going to obfuscate any of their usernames and things like that, but which direction is better to go, or is it contingent on the...
It depends on your goal for collecting the data. If you want a contained set of data that you can track, manipulate, and it's just for your region. But we have never, and you can confirm, I have never run into any inappropriate conversations or anything that would not be child-friendly on the iNaturalist. It is strictly a community of citizen scientists and identifying species. Or, bring this up later, it's not just species. It is rocks, dirt, anything that has to do with outdoors. So it's
Scat.
Scat.
It's a feature. It's one of the features.
It is. And it's very helpful because, for example, on our trails at Ivy, we didn't know that black bear were there.
Wow.
And so one of our teachers who's a hunter photographed this scat and it came back as black bear scat. And so then we started talking to TWRA about it. And then I called City of Soddy Daisy and the city manager said, "You're kidding me." And I said, "No, why?" And she said, "Because we just had a lady drive by and she said, there's a bear in the creek right by Ivy Academy." And so anyway, it's helpful. Identifying scat can be very helpful because if you got kids on a trail, you'd like to know if there's bear there too. But believe me, the kids make so much noise most of the time.
Bear's gone.
Yeah. So yes. And it's, if you don't know, like I was uploading one out there and we just took a guess. So a little bit later on, what we'll do is we'll be able to check, and there will be other citizen scientists on there who will go, that's not it, it should be this, this. So it's a very safe place for learning. Any other comments or questions before we move on? Now, anything you want to know, I am going to share this slide deck with you, but I went ahead and just put one YouTube link on there, so you'll have that link to share. But if you want to go on YouTube and Google how to create a project on iNaturalist, or any topic, you can get all the tutorials you want, and you can watch it over and over. YouTube's good, but then again, we're distancing ourselves and not being too human, but it is a good, it's like reading a book, you could say that. So, connections with our classroom standards. So, one of the things that another feature of this type of learning, you have to remember that we live in a universe. We don't live in a multiverse. We are all part of one big biosphere, and the more we do with iNaturalist and our students, and the more we connect with different parts of the globe, the more it starts to work on the student's brain. They're like, oh, this is relative to this. I need to know how to communicate in whatever language so that I can relate to this other person living over here who needs the information that I have. And so even though we probably teach in separate subjects, if you're in 6 through 12, if you're in K through 5, you do get to integrate more, but it helps them understand, hey, I'm part of something bigger, and these things are related. So what we're going to do next, we're going to talk about ideas of how to use iNaturalist in every subject area. And Anne's going to start out here with ELA ideas, and as she starts, I'm going to show you this one. This was taken in the North Chickamauga Creek. It's actually on a sandbar. And that's a real entry we have. And she'll talk about this.
Is that
Yeah, this is
hanging
next to our
in the school?
Mm-hmm.
I am the ELA teacher for 6th grade. And in being able to teach my subject, but also teach across the curriculum with other teachers, is integral for the kids to understand that what they're learning in my classroom transfers to every subject they teach. I mean, they learn that I teach them. Because of this, the etymology, or the study of language, the study of words, they learn right away binomial nomenclature. And I always ask them, do you know what that is? And they say Gesundheit. And I tell them, okay, well, Heliotropum indictum, Heliosun tropum turn, is the name of this plant. And we take a look at it and we understand, yes, look, it is turning, and it uses the sun for its heat, its life. So etymology and vocabulary go hand in hand, and we do a lot of that in my language arts class with vocabulary words and sounding out words. Even as a 6th grader, sometimes they struggle with being able to pronounce some of the words. Also with creative writing, we did a 3-subject connection between our student junior ranger teacher, the math teacher, and myself, where we looked at the different rocks in our creek and then went up to the top of the creek about 1.5 miles and looked at the rocks at a different branch off the creek and looked at the rocks. And then we made a creative writing story of a rock that is in a storm and tumbles down to the bottom of the gorge where the school is. So taking the creative writing, but they also learned about the different types of rocks. And then they also talked about the percentages of sandstone to quartz or limestone and different things like that. So we were able to cross-curricular science, math, and language arts. Presentation projects that they can do. We did this in my class where they observed and presented to the class what they observed, and they wrote down facts. We didn't use technology at that time, but we used field guides, and they were able to identify using a field guide. This was before iNaturalist was known to us. So anyway, we would use that for student projects. And then this little photo that Angie has here is a picture of a flower that you could take a student made and say, this was so well done. We're gonna hang it up on the wall. This is a definite, Angie, tell us the species of that.
This is a purple aster, and I don't know its Latin name, but this was taken on our trail as well. And something this small, easycanvasprints.com is what we use. This was just $9.99. So if you can do something like this for a student, as in, you know, there's some type of competition or incentive, and they are the ones that get their photograph on the wall or published or whatever, they remember that forever. And how encouraging is that to them? And it's real. It's not just something, an assigned project that they worked on and put in a folder and put up. This is something that's living, something they observed. And not only that, the whole rest of the world knows they did it because it's on here. And now whoever's at their school, it's hanging there forever too. So it's just a really good positive affirmation. It's a documentation. It helps seal learning. So.
Yes, and also proper communication, like we've been talking about. When they upload something, oftentimes they don't identify it properly, and they can communicate with a citizen scientist, and they can take feedback, criticism, or say, no, I disagree. I really think that is incorrect. This is, you know, they learn that proper communication, but then they can communicate what they've learned to others in the school building or in the community, as we want to promote all of the really fun activities that our students are working on. Nature journaling is something that I use in my language arts classroom because they can combine observing nature to poetry writing to simply writing down statistics. What was the temperature today? Where am I? What kind of day is it? Is it muggy? Is it raining? What is my mood? They can include all of that in nature journaling. And as an ELA teacher, allowing a child, number one, to draw in class is key, but they're drawing with a purpose. And then letting them learn on their own. They can do Google searches if they need to and find out more about what they're observing. And finally, again, with the cross-curricular, Angie is going to tell you about how we can combine iNaturalist with all the different math ideas that each grade level could use the data in their classroom.
So math, you'll notice if you look just from the observations you made, there's all kinds of numbers on that page. And you can do anything with those numbers related to your mathematics standards. For example, I can say, this is a project we have. You see Ivy Academy FEA, that stands for Future Environmental Educators of America. It was a club that we had for a while that went to elementary schools and did raised garden, start a raised garden bed for them, or teach them how to do some citizen science projects. So, for example, if I was teaching mean or average, I could say, well, of the observations listed on your front page, what is the number of times, the average number of times the species have been observed there? You can do all kinds of data analysis with mean, median, and mode. If it's something in the lower grades, you can ask them to sum The numbers there, just something real simple. In the middle here, this is an observation of a purple coneflower. And then for your more advanced math classes, what you can do is say, okay, you take that observation. The example I listed here was we were taking the numbers and applying our math standard, learning how to do the math standard. But with this, you're taking the observation and coming up with the numbers. So the challenge here when the students went out in the field was find something in nature that represents the graph of y equals x squared. And so they found the purple coneflower, and then they had to manipulate it on the graph, and then they moved it like this is, you can see that's over 3 and up 2. So this one was actually y equals x minus 3 in parentheses squared plus 2. This one was y is equal to negative x squared. This one you can't see because it got covered up, but that was y is equal to x squared. So you can get as detailed and as complicated and as advanced with this as the teacher is creative to be. And the question was asked about different projects. We created this project. This is just my personal observations with, you can see people will confirm it, but the projects, once students start the observations, then they understand, oh, we can do this with other things too. Some of the things we've done is water quality, data collection, and I'll tell you a couple of very positive stories about how the community's been involved. I think it was somebody from Hamilton County Sheriff's Department that came by and he said, I heard you've been collecting water quality data on the Soddy Creek watershed, because we collect it for North Chickamauga Creek and Soddy Creek. And I said, yes, and he said, well, can I see it? And I said, yes, so I gave it to him. So he was working with TWRA, and they wanted to know if that watershed could sustain trout, because they had not stocked Big Soddy Creek with trout before. So now they are stocking it with trout, and it's a very popular trout fishing area. So again, our students got to participate with real scientists, and it's something that has been really positive for the community. So once they start these observations, it leads them to think, oh, education is important. Education is fun. Education is something I can take part of myself, even as a student, that makes an impact someplace else. The first time we did this presentation, it was all about engagement. I started out with the hook question of, if I could give you something that could get almost every student in your classroom to really hook on to learning, would you want to know about that? And so, of course, the answer is yes. Well, now we're looking at it from a perspective of, we need this because in post-pandemic world, we've got to recreate that purpose again. We've got to make sure that everyone is not just engaged, that they are healthy, that they are active, that the teachers, not only the students, but the teachers are getting variety in their presentation, that the students are getting variety. They're not just seated like you are now. I feel really bad because I've had you seated looking forward here and I'm talking too much. But anyway, some other projects we have going on. We do the annual bird counts. We have this community come in, and then we also do, what's the other one?
Pollinator.
Yes, annual pollinator count. So all of those are observations that the students use in every subject. So here's just some art standards ideas, and we'll go through those really quickly. All the elements of art can be studied through the observations. You've got line and tone, and all the 2 or 3 dimensional art projects can be inspired or made by the photos. There's several things if you actually print the photos you can do. Study the observations to learn what plants or soil types can make good paint or sculpting clay. We've done both those things. We've made paint for art class out of mud or out of pokeberries, different things in nature, and then we've also created clay. So you can find all that information in your iNaturalist. CTE ideas. Now this one's harder. Graphic designs with the observations or productions with observations. If you're teaching auto mechanics or HVAC repair or something like that, getting your industry certifications, that's a little bit more challenging. Maybe you could just use the observations for a break or something. But you know what? Teachers are the most creative people in the world. And if a HVAC teacher can figure out how to, an HVAC teacher would be the person who could figure out how to use iNaturalist to make that work with their class if anybody could. And then before we go on to the next slide, I want to remind us again, the student needs that we are meeting with our basic method using iNaturalist. They're getting fresh air, they're not cooped up in the classroom, sunshine for vitamin D production, movement and plenty of space for best health, happiness, mental variety for learning, and productive interactions with peers, teachers, and citizen scientists. So now it's your turn. We're going to spend a few minutes coming up with how we might connect iNaturalist with other disciplines. So it is a science. The science part is pretty self-explanatory. You can still specifically talk about science if you're a science teacher, but think about geography, history, civics, any of these other subjects that you may teach or you may sub in the classroom, or your own child may be taking that class. We're going to take 7 minutes. I'll do a check at 5 minutes, but what we'd like is for each of you to think about, with the experience of, even if you're not in the classroom now, you probably all taught a subject at some point. Think of a way you could integrate the iNaturalist in with a specific standard skill you were teaching, and then we're going to share. And what we'll do is we'll give everybody 7 minutes, and you can talk together, you can think, pair, share, you can do tabletop talk, you can do turn and talk. We'll shoot for 7 minutes, and if you need more time, we can go into 10 or 15.
You could actually generate a 3D printed model of the same. So it kind of turns you into, as an engineer, kind of turns you into the replicator.
Classes in college, he had to do a self-actualization of a basil plant. It was pretty interesting.
You love those teachers that are willing to make those kids do that.
Yeah, I was like, are you sure this is a science class?
What's geography, the types of plants in your area? Economics, the same thing as.
Okay, well, let's have some share time. We'll let volunteers go first.
I taught the different social studies, and we always covered in the early period types of plants Native Americans ate, types of plants they used for housing, medicinal purposes, and so on. And then, of course, when the Founding Fathers came over, they depended on those same things, and they had to know what they could eat and what they couldn't. And I just always imagined going out in the forest when you've never seen these things before, trying to figure out, if I eat this, am I going to die, or is this going to be good, or am I going to survive, or what? So those kind of things. And then even today, in gardening, you know, we need to know, if you're a gardener, you need to know which insects are beneficial and which are not, so you'll know which ones to eliminate and which ones to hold on to. In government, we need to know which plants need to be preserved, protected, and in geography, which plants will grow well in different geographical areas. You know, when you start gardening, you think this really looks pretty, so I'm going to plant this, and it won't grow here. So you've wasted money there.
That's really good. I can see a cool project out of that, as far as talking about the Native American piece, creating a project just for analyzing if a plant is beneficial for consumption.
When I was a kid, we drank sassafras tea a lot. But, you know, you got to know which tree is a sassafras tree and which isn't. Yeah. And there's white and red and so on, so it makes a difference. And also, people used to always look for ginseng roots. You know, that's a big thing in medicine and very expensive. If you can find them, you can sell them, make a lot of money. But you got to know what you're looking for.
Very good. Who else wants to share?
So I was thinking from our STEAM focus, especially in the E and the A, the engineering and arts, And so I like the idea of the coordinate plane overlay. And so thinking about that maybe with a musical staff and trying to discover the musicality within and actually writing, because a lot of composers have different inspiration for what they compose. And so thinking of, especially if there's a certain line there, maybe you might write a musical line that actually, fits those notes over time. And if it has a certain repetition and frequency of certain things, that might determine the rhythm and different pieces like that. So I was thinking from that. And then on the engineering side, we've got 3D printers we don't use creatively enough. We just produce things that already exist. So thinking of ways that you might even create a medallion or something or a token that might promote a certain species, and that they're doing a two-dimensional design that's being printed there, and they could kind of hand those out. Or perhaps the elimination of a certain species, the PI, poison ivy, that seems to show up in every one of these projects. Or for an awareness campaign, so that everybody can more readily recognize the poison ivy. And so just some of those things where they have to go through the design process and looking at what's already beautifully created and then trying to find their own means of replicating that and sort of representing it differently. So.
I'm learning a lot from you all. We're going to steal these ideas. Who would like to share next? Megan or Rebecca?
I'll do mine first and then she'll do hers. I said that one of the things you could do for economics is you can actually have them go out and take pictures of cultivated fields and things. We live out in the country. And then you can go back in and look what Tennessee contributes to the GDP, what Tennessee, Coffee County, and even the United States. You could look at it that way. And a lot of these kids they know it's a field, but they don't know what's growing in it. They don't know it's soybeans. Some of them can't identify corn, and I'm not kidding. And we live in the country. So.
That's good. What was that app who shared with me was?
Farmish?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's still kind of in its infancy, but apparently there's an app being developed now that for different, produce and different things, they're kind of geolocated for you, and you can reach out and find them in your area.
So Rebecca's next.
So I love teaching writing, but sometimes, and I've taught 4th and 5th grade writing, and sometimes it can be really difficult to get them started. Getting started, I think, is one of the hardest parts. But one of the things that popped into my head was teaching writing through different perspectives of the same scenario. And that would definitely tie into when you're having to look at a text and then visualize how would this be different from a different character's perspective. I've seen those types of questions on CASE over and over. And so the assignment would be you partner up with somebody, and somebody tells the story or situation from the photographer's perspective. Like, I see this plant, I'm curious about it. This is what I notice and wonder about the plant as I'm taking a picture. As I look it up, like, this is what I discover about that plant and all of its, where it's located. Am I right? I don't know. And then the other student has to tell from the perspective of the plant. Like, I'm sitting here like this, and they have to know about the plant in order to be able to talk from its perspective, which is silly, but it's a way to get kids to feel comfortable about writing because they went outside and experienced it themselves. So for some, it's, I wrote about what I just did. And then others who are maybe more creative and more advanced in that opening activity can add some more creativity, different types of words, transition words. So I loved that activity.
Excellent. Okay, is there anybody we hadn't heard from that has something to share?
Mine are not unique. I mean, they're just not. What I really thought about was I needed this session about a week ago because I met my kids out in the Southwest, out in Las Vegas, and we drove 2,000 miles through 5 states, and we were mainly in the Navajo Nation. But I can see so many applications to iNaturalist in that, Now, granted, we're not doing that with our students, at that level, but I was just thinking about how to do that culturally and make the ties to, in this instance, the Navajo people. So I just needed this a week earlier.
Okay.
That's what I did last week.
I spent 2 weeks in the Navajo Nation one time, and it was life-changing for me.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's very powerful.
You know, I was thinking another thing is career exploration. For kids, for students, you know, say juniors, seniors, older students, they really love to be outdoors. There are lots of good occupations, and just take the lumber industry itself. Somebody has to go out and check the trees, make sure the insects are not bothering them, make sure they're the right size, select the cuts that need to be made, and those kind of things. If that's up someone's alley, then there's some good fun, money to be made.
It is, and
in
it
those
can
industries.
connect to professionals in that field to come to your school. For example, we have the iNaturalist database, so Tennessee Department of Ag has come to our school to help lead professional developments, and they informed us, and I didn't know this till, I don't know if it's last summer, summer before when we did that particular PD, they will hire Tennessee high school graduates straight out of high school, and get them started in a career, and then they can go ahead and pursue their degree if they want to while they're working for Tennessee Department of Ag. So they have several openings for, it's just only high school diploma is required, but it gets them immediately into a professional career.
Now, how do you identify through the app those citizen scientists or those that might benefit your school community? Like, how do you identify them?
Well,
Is it a resource within the app
You can go to their profile.
of those who respond?
we just in general thought, we've got tree data.
Right.
Who in Tennessee knows about trees?
Okay, so you just made
yeah.
the connection that way.
Okay, well, just let me say I'm so proud of you all. You did an excellent job thinking and sharing what you came up with. So what we want to think about now is what is and where is your classroom? I want you to think about that for just a second now that we've examined how we can observe something and upload it to a database. So does anybody have a very, an answer you would expect that to be now that we said what is and where is your classroom? It is the whole world. Now that you have iNaturalist and you've got your kids uploading to a global database, one of the things you can learn on the tutorial is if you click the little map, you can see where the observations of that species are all over the globe. It really helps students understand perspective. Here I am, here's everything else. What new tool or method will you use as a result of our learning session today? Hopefully iNaturalist or observations from other things, other ways to collect observations. Do you feel the basic method increases a healthy class style? So think about that. Remember the healthy benefits. And then today we've practiced responsible and limited technology use, We've encouraged communication with real scientists, given opportunity for variety in the learning environment, worked healthy habits into our routine, hopefully have sparked a new relevance in learning, and practice methods that can be used at school or at home, which still involve all of the above. So like Megan said, when they were doing the entomology, which is different from etymology, which Ann was talking about with the nomenclature there, but the entomology collection of insects, well, they could all work on the same project through iNaturalist even though they were at home. So all these things we've been talking about, if our students go remote again, we can still do them. Questions, comments, the end, and I will send you the slide deck, and there's the school websites. You can contact me or Ann or anybody else on there, and we will get you more information. And we hope we've empowered you and inspired you. See, if you get the idea, and if you see how it's been positive for our students, hopefully you're inspired, and as a teacher or a teacher leader, you will take this information and grow it. You can take the app now and go watch your YouTube videos, train yourself, get really excited, and spread that excitement to your students. Okay, well that concludes our program for today. Thank you so much.